So welcome to Models of Collaboration and the Intersection of Outdoor Education, Therapeutic Horticulture, and Horticultural Therapy in a Public School Setting. We are really pleased to be welcoming Greg and Hannah today, who I'll introduce in a moment. This webinar is co-hosted by the Florida Horticulture for Health Network, as well as the Carolinas Horticultural Therapy Network. The Florida Horticulture for Health Network uses several platforms to share information and education. They're listed on the first slide. Please consider subscribing to the network via the website. We send monthly e-blasts to subscribers with upcoming webinars, recent YouTube videos, horticulture information, and other interesting events related to how horticulture can positively impact health. My name's Sarah Sterling. I am on the advisory board for the Florida Horticulture for Health Network, and I'm really pleased today to introduce you to Hannah Damberg and Greg Stivland, who will be presenting today's webinar. Hannah is a native Durhamite. She graduated from Oberlin College with a bachelor's degree in environmental studies and geology and a concentration in environmental education. She had 6 years of vegetable production experience on 3 farms in the Piedmont area of North Carolina before working at the Hub Farm. The Hub Farm is Durham Public Schools' outdoor learning center, located on Shakori and Occoneechee Band of the Saponi land in what is now North Durham. At the Hub Farm since 2018, Hannah serves as a farm educator where she manages 30 acres of pollinator and vegetable gardens, trails and livestock, manages volunteers, leads and coordinates K-12 field trips, mentors high school and college interns, and more. With whatever time she has left after doing all of that. She's passionate about incorporating an accessibility lens and therapeutic horticulture into Hub Farm programming and is about to complete the Hybrid Therapeutic Horticulture Certificate Program at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. Greg Stivland is a pediatric occupational therapist who's worked in private practice and public schools for over 30 years. He currently works with students aged 3 through 21. Greg is the founder of Exceptional Gardeners, which is a collaborative horticultural therapy program for children and young adults with developmental disabilities, which supports social inclusion, acquisition of vocational skills, participation in meaningful occupations, and improved quality of life during and after their school career. He graduated from East Carolina University in 1994 with a BS in occupational therapy. He received a certificate in horticultural therapy through HTI in 2022 and became a registered horticultural therapist in January of 2024. Greg co-teaches a class on adapted tools for hybrid therapeutic horticultural therapy certificate program at the North Carolina Botanical Garden in Chapel Hill. Thank you so much. I'm excited for your presentation. And just a reminder, any questions during the presentation, please throw them in the chat. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah, for the introduction. And I have been lucky enough actually to get to work with Greg for a long time, but also he was my instructor for a class, for that adaptive tools class in the Horticultural Therapy Certificate Program. So it was really cool to get to learn from Greg in a more formal context as well. But hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. Greg and I are so excited to be here with you all to share a bit of the work that we've been collaborating on over the past few years, and then to also get to learn from you all in the Q&A, which we'll have at the very end of the presentation, because we're certainly not the only people in this webinar with a wealth of knowledge to share. So thank you for joining us today. And Greg, we can go to the next slide.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of an issue with going back and forth here all of a sudden. Let me try moving this.
Maybe the right arrow button.
Greg, do you just want to pop out of share mode and go back in again?
Okay.
Perfect.
Yay, great
there
work.
There we go.
Technology. Awesome. So here is our agenda for this presentation. So we will do brief intros, although we just had wonderful introductions. So maybe we'll gloss over that. We'll talk a little bit about collaboration as a concept. So why is collaboration important in team environments? And a little bit more about the why and what we hope you all will learn from it by the end. I will also introduce you to my place of work, the Durham Public Schools Hub Farm, and then outdoor learning more broadly in Durham Public Schools. And then I will pass it off to Greg to talk about his work as an occupational and horticultural therapist in DPS. We will then move on to talk about the 5 different models of collaboration and share an example each of how we've utilized that collaboration in our work at Durham Public Schools. And then we will leave time at the end for any questions. Like we said, we'll have a Q&A, 15 minutes at the end, and we will also share a QR code at that point of any supplemental resources if y'all are interested in exploring these topics further. All right, we can go to the next slide.
It seems like it's pausing me after every slide, so I apologize. I'm just gonna go one more slide and just, okay.
Okay.
Give it a shot.
Great. So yeah, I already was, introduced, so I don't really need to go over any of these things, but I guess I'll just flag that I was a Durham Public Schools student myself. So it's been really wonderful to get to have the kind of full circle experience of being from Durham, being a Durham Public School student, and now getting to work in a professional capacity in Durham Public Schools with young DPS students as well. Like some of the students who are pictured here, that's a photo of some of our summer interns from a few summers ago. We have garden interns every summer, and so those were some of our interns getting to learn how to work in garden spaces, doing perennial and annual production. And then those are some of our chickens on the farm. So
Right. And yeah, and I will not go over all of the information that you already heard about me. Other than I would say that I would just let you know that I found out about horticultural therapy after discovering like how powerful horticulture is as a therapeutic modality. I myself had been gardening since I was a child, and being able to share something like that I enjoy so much with the students that I work with has just been a real gift. So the people that are in my picture down here are also a lot of the collaborators that I work with in the gardening program at school. And really without them, it wouldn't happen. So, and let's see. All right, let's go to the next one. All right. So why collaboration in times of change? We wanted to start off the presentation by providing a frame for this presentation today. We both Hannah and I work in the public schools, and public education in the US is experiencing a period of great change, I think would be the nice way to say that right now. The public schools are dealing with things like being chronically underfunded. We've got a lot of staff vacancies and difficulty finding new and qualified and experienced staff. We have also building and maintenance issues that impact workplace and student health and safety. And as Hannah and I talked about the collaboration that we have done together, and also with others that we work with in support of the work that we're doing, we talked about this shared goal of connecting people to plants or helping to make those people-plant connections happen. And it became clear that collaborating with others during these times of significant change in the public school setting is what is providing us with that grounding and that purpose that we need to continue providing these important services to the students that we work with. And in addition to that, we're trying to expand the populations who are engaging in plant-based activities within the school setting. So collaboration has been the key. And we're excited to share more information with you today on collaboration during these times of change, and also learn about what has worked in your practice. So these pictures here are at an elementary school, and there are teachers who helped us build raised beds. We had kids from both the special education classrooms and like typically developing students in the general education classrooms help out by cleaning up the courtyard, and then helping replace a pond and getting these raised beds put together. So this is sort of like our outdoor space that we have at our school. And these are the learning objectives for today. So the first one is to identify at least one model of collaboration and explain why it would be an effective model in your THHT practice area. And the second one is to identify at least 2 potential or current collaborators inside and outside your THHT organization. And then the third one is to reflect on how to apply these models in your organization to identify barriers to and strategies for collaboration. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. So before we get into the broader sort of collaboration conversation, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Hub Farm in depth. So again, I am a farm educator at the Durham Public Schools Outdoor Learning Center, which is the Hub Farm. And we are the only outdoor learning center funded by a public school system in the Southeast that we are aware of, at least. And like Sarah said, we are located on 30 acres of land in North Durham that were first stewarded by the Shakori and the Occaneechi indigenous groups here. And we are situated really wonderfully between a Durham Public Schools elementary, middle, and high school. And so we were founded in 2012, and I've been here since 2018, about 7 years, which is crazy. And we are run by a lean staff of 3 DPS employees. So there's myself, a farm educator, I have another co-farm educator, and then we have a program manager. And we are funded through the Career and Technical Education Department of Durham Public Schools. So much of our work is focused on vocational training for high school students in outdoor careers. But we do serve the entire school district. So students, staff, families, the broader community. And we see an average of about 3,000 Durham Public School students on the farm annually. We do also serve non-DPS students as well. And our mission is to engage the DPS community in meaningful outdoor experiences. And we do that through sort of 3 tenets. The first one is environmental education, which includes K-12 standards-aligned field trips, high school internships, and an annual summer camp. We also focus heavily on community engagement as our second tenet, which includes educational workshops, community events. And then finally, we focus on capacity building for outdoor learning at the district level, because there are just 3 of us, and we are one farm that serves the whole school district. So in order to disseminate outdoor learning throughout the school district, we provide professional development opportunities for teachers, embedded professional development in our summer camp for teachers as well. And then we also offer seasonal plant giveaways 3 times a year, where we raise about 1,500 to 2,000 annual vegetable starts and provide them for free to our community, including to some of our school gardens. So that's the Hub Farm. So these are some photos of the Hub Farm, and of the one structure that was on the land when the farm was founded, which is our barn, which was built by CTE engineering and electrical students in the 80s. It used to house goats. It now houses Hub Farm staff. It's our office, and it's very much a symbol of the farm. And our 30-acre campus also includes a pond with a floating classroom. We've got chickens. We have an apiary with honeybees. We have edible mushroom log spaces, a greenhouse, a vegetable garden, and much more. Vegetable, pollinator and perennial beds, an orchard. So it's a really, really special and beautiful space. And then I just wanted to briefly mention our outdoor learning department. So this is a department in Durham Public Schools like the Hub Farm. It is also funded through the Career and Technical Education Department, and it is run by our district's outdoor learning specialist named Erin Carroll. And she's probably our closest intra-departmental partnership and collaborator. So when we're talking about collaboration, she is one of our key partners. She supports the Hub Farm and DPS teachers in outdoor curriculum development, professional development, and then she consults for outdoor learning programs at schools around DPS. And we work closely together to plan our curriculum-aligned field trips and offer professional development workshops in outdoor learning.
Okay. So in Durham Public Schools, we don't have an official horticultural therapy department, but my position as an occupational therapist is funded through the Exceptional Children's Department. The IDEA law is the federal legislation that makes available a free and appropriate public education to eligible children with disabilities throughout the nation and ensures special education and related services to those children occur. These are all of the services that are required positions within the school district due to this law. So you can see those all listed here, and OT is one of those positions. So that's how my position is funded. The horticultural therapy activities, they fit well with the services delivered by an occupational therapist due to the purposeful and functional activities that are built into horticultural therapy activities. So that is what OT is all about. It's helping people to engage in activities that they want to or need to do and that are purposeful and functional activities. So I started the horticultural therapy program in 2022 called Exceptional Gardeners. And you can go to the next slide. This is one of the students, the picture here of, she was one of the first kids who got to go through this program. And this was already stated earlier. So the program is, the students that I work with, this was initially started due to a high school where I work, and a lot of the students are in classrooms that don't have any windows. And I was trying to figure out ways that we could either get the kids out of the classroom or be able to enhance the learning space so that it was a more pleasant space for them to be in while they were there. So that was sort of the impetus to get this going. Let's see. So with the Exceptional Gardeners program, we are working on indoor horticultural therapy activities. That was how it started. And we're focusing on working with indoor houseplants and doing indoor houseplant propagation. We also do things like growing microgreens. We grow grass heads. We also do nature walks and do tape bracelets, making and tasting herbed salt. So those are all some different activities that we've done in addition to the houseplant propagation. The programming costs to run the Exceptional Gardeners program have been covered through grants, private donations, and plant sales. So we initially, to get it going, we purchased equipment in 2022 for around $2,500. And these were plant light shelves that we were able to have in 3 classrooms. And then, some of the other equipment that we needed, like potting tidies, 3.5-inch pots, trays, and the dirt to get us started. We had a lot of plant donations. So anyway, that's sort of how we pulled things together to get this program started. So let's go on to the next slide. And we will dive right into collaboration. So collaboration in its simplest form is defined as the process of 2 or more people or entities or organizations working together to complete a task or achieve a goal. So it goes on to say that when you work collaboratively, you often have greater access to resources when having competition for finite resources. So by having access to greater resources, we have a better chance of providing these important and effective services to our clients. There is really a good reason to collaborate. And we can go on to the next slide. So these are the 5 models of collaboration that we'll be looking at today. There's many, many more than this, but we decided to grab these 5 and just kind of hone in on these. These models can overlap and they can be adapted depending on the specific needs and goals of the collaboration. So we're going to go through the definitions of each of these models of collaboration and then give some real life examples of our experiences. As we are going through each one, think about which models you may have used in your practice or that you might be able to use in the future.
Awesome. All right, great. So our first model of collaboration we're going to talk about is team collaboration. And when we think of collaboration on the most fundamental level, we probably think of this model of collaboration, which just describes a group of individuals working together towards a common goal. And as Greg mentioned, the wonderful thing about collaboration, and I think the thing that Greg and I found too, is that collaboration, I like to think about as sort of a symbiosis, like it's a meeting both entities' missions or goals. So it's a really great way, again, a great way to compile resources and to both meet a goal with limited time and energy and resources. So in this photo here, we see Durham Public School middle and high school students helping build our new ADA accessible vegetable garden at the Hub Farm. So this is a great example of team collaboration. They're all working together to build these vegetable beds and pathways, which we filled with crushed gravel for wheelchair access. And students here are self-differentiating the tasks that they're doing based on their specific skills and desires, and they're also learning new agricultural and landscaping skills while they're at it. So this is a great example of both team collaboration and also the vocational programming that we offer students at the Hub Farm. Our next model we'll talk about is called cross-functional collaboration, which just describes collaborations between individuals or teams from different areas within an organization. So the example I have here is a photo from a Hispanic Heritage Night at the Hub Farm that was a collaborative event between many different internal DPS departments. So it included our Eno Valley Elementary families and staff. So those are our neighbors next door to the Hub Farm. It also included the Public Affairs Department, the Multilingual Resource Center, and of course the Hub Farm where the event was held. So multiple DPS departments here collaborated on creating a family-friendly event to engage more Spanish-speaking families at both Eno Valley Elementary and the Hub Farm. And then, of course, it also met our goal of community engagement. And so, again, both goals were collaboratively met through this event. Community collaboration is our third model. So that describes collective action among many stakeholders outside of an organization rather than inside of an organization, who are all working towards a shared goal or purpose. And these photos here are from our Hub Farm Spring 2024 Farm Dinner. So it was this time last year, actually, which was a community event for 90 students and their families. And it celebrated the amazing work that was happening around Durham Public Schools in outdoor learning, along with for our students. And then also we highlighted the stories of our cafeteria workers in DPS. And so this was a collaboration between the Northern High School Culinary Arts Department. So the culinary students helped plan the menu in January that year, along with the vegetables that the Hub Farm garden interns grew. And then those garden interns seeded, grew, planted, and harvested the vegetables. And then we also highlighted our Youth Food Policy Council, which is called Unbox, which is a DPS initiative between the Food Systems Planning Department and School Nutrition to teach DPS students about the local DPS food system and how to change it. And then we also had farms outside of DPS collaborating with us who supplemented the produce that we grew at the farm. We also had the Board of Education involved and more. So we invited all of these students, their families, and Hub Farm stakeholders to celebrate this community collaboration and raise more awareness about it.
I always feel like we should do a mic drop after that because that's just such a great, like all of the collaboration that goes on to make that happen. And the program at the Hub Farm is just phenomenal, what Hannah and the team out there do. If you ever get a chance to go there, it is definitely worth a visit.
Thanks, Greg.
So this slide is looking at collaborative networks. This is networks of organizations or individuals who work together, often virtually, kind of like what we're doing right now, to achieve mutual goals. This model allows for sharing resources, knowledge, and expertise across those organizational boundaries. So I put in some logos here just so that we have a sampling of some collaborative networks. So the one at the very top there, the IPPC, is the International People Plant Council. So that's sort of like an international organization. And then we have the American Horticultural Therapy Association, which is a national organization. And then we have the regional organizations such as the Carolinas Horticultural Therapy Network. I'm the treasurer for that one. And then the Florida Horticulture for Health Network. So that's another example of a regional network. And then we have, in our state, we have the North Carolina State Extension Master Gardeners Program. So each county has access to master gardeners who you can, ask questions to and, get information about all sorts of things related to horticulture. And then here locally, we have the North Carolina Botanical Garden, which has been a phenomenal resource for us to be able to, for educational purposes. And I've worked very closely with the staff over there. And then the Hub Farm is the Hub Farm, and it seems like there was one other logo. Maybe that was the other logo that's down there in the corner. I can't quite see it. But the Hub Farm is, one of our very local, just to our school district resources that we have in organizations. So I was just going to say, if anybody has other collaborative networks that you have worked with that you feel like you would like to share with everybody, we could just drop those into the chat. So if you want to type those in, that would be great. All right, and we can go to the next slide. So this slide is looking at co-creation. And this is a collaboration between the organization and the customers or end users who are actually using the products or the services that are being provided. So this model emphasizes the role of customers as active participants in the development process, which is really, really important. So I have an example of this from the high school where I work. I had a high school student who was participating in the Exceptional Gardeners program. And like I said, we typically were working on propagating houseplants. And one day I was in the class and the student asked, he said, Mr. Gregg, can we grow lettuce in the classroom? And I was like, heck yeah, we can. We can grow lettuce. And so we did. I had the kids, I brought some seeds in. We started lettuce in the class. We grew it on these light shelves that we had for the houseplants. And I ended up bringing some, greens and nasturtium flowers and things like that from my home garden to augment what we had grown in the classroom. But we made these beautiful salads, and the kids, we actually worked with the culinary department, and they brought us the little containers. So each of the students got to make their own salad. They were beautiful, and they were very proud of them. When they put the whole package together, and some of the kids wanted to eat them right away, and some of the kids said, "Can I take this home so I can show my mom?" So I just wanted to say that co-creation is so important, and being able to take the participants' lead when possible is a really awesome therapeutic thing to do.
Yes, I wholeheartedly believe that too, Greg. And that is a big focus of our pedagogy at the Hub Farm, is to be student-centered and to, as much as possible, allow our students to lead the way in their learning, to be their own agents of their learning. Cool. So those are the 5 models of collaboration that we wanted to share. And now we want to kind of dive a bit more into how Greg and I have collaborated in Durham Public Schools. So we're going to discuss 2 different examples of therapeutic horticulture and horticultural therapy collaboration to contextualize those models. And keep in mind that for both of these examples, collaboration, again, really allowed us to be resourceful and meet multiple goals at once. And so I, again, think it's really helpful to think of collaboration as a symbiotic practice. And the photo at the bottom is just a photo from a little story time circle we had with a bunch of preschoolers in our garden. I just thought that was cute. Okay, so my example I wanted to share is about the accessibility project that I mentioned earlier as an example of team collaboration. So in my work at the Hub Farm, I regularly utilize all 5 models of collaboration that we just discussed. Last spring, like I mentioned, we undertook a large project at the farm to build an ADA accessible vegetable garden in order to increase our physical and learning accessibility to the DPS community. But we started this project about 4 years ago by initially utilizing team collaboration amongst Hub Farm staff. So amongst our team, we created a garden design. We applied to a Durham Public Schools Foundation grant to cover it. Again, we also have to write a lot of grants, like Greg mentioned for his program. We write a lot of grants to fund our program. We also then cover cropped and mulched the area for a year as a team. We facilitated volunteers and interns and students also to help us execute the plan. So all of the kind of initial phases of our project were team collaboration. We utilize cross-functional collaboration by collaborating with multiple Durham Public Schools departments across DPS to receive input on our garden design in the early stages of planning. And this is really the phase of the project when Greg and I started collaborating, which was about 3 years ago. So we invited people in outdoor learning. We invited occupational therapists like Greg, physical therapists in DPS, the assistive technology department, the visual impairment department, and then also the exceptional children's department out for site consultations. So I reached out to Greg initially as an expert in both horticultural and occupational therapy, which was such a great combination of expertise specifically for our project. So he supported this project with accessibility resources. He came out and did a site consultation, and he also gave us feedback on our garden plan as we were starting to flesh it out. So Greg was really one of those like key cross-functional collaborators in the beginning of this project. So we also utilize community collaboration by seeking input from outside stakeholders like Emily Weaver, who is the North Carolina Botanical Gardens Therapeutic Horticulture Program Manager. We also have utilized help from Girl Scouts who are helping build ADA accessible raised beds for the garden. Volunteers again from Durham organizations to build out the garden, and then funding from the DPS Foundation. We also utilize co-creation, like the model that we both are really excited about. So we sought input from our high school interns and culinary arts students who decide what we grow in the space each season. We also had one of Greg's students who is in a wheelchair who came to the farm to test out all of the different classroom spaces in his wheelchair in order to give us feedback on ADA accessibility improvements. And I think he really took to that, Greg. He did a lot of popping wheelies in his wheelchair and off-roading. It was great. Yeah. And so we want the users of the Hub Farm and this new vegetable garden more specifically to be actively involved in the development of our new spaces, which looks like taking staff and student feedback and letting them lead the way whenever possible. But we, of course, ran into barriers along the way, including the really slow internal DPS procurement processes for getting supplies and materials. We did run out of grant funding to finish some of our garden features. So the space is actually maybe like 80% complete at this point. We also ran into environmental barriers like weather and rain that contributed to path erosion. Obviously, there's staff capacity issues. So and the ways that we kind of approach those barriers was by using other community resources to get some of those projects done. So like running out of grant funding meant that we were able to work with Girl Scouts to complete some of the raised beds. And the environmental barriers we mitigated by adding water diversion so that the water didn't erode all of the paths. So ultimately, all 5 of these models of collaboration worked in tandem towards the same goal. And we overcame barriers to collaboration by reaching out to volunteers and community partners and using found or donated materials.
Yes. Okay, and so here is for the program that I'm working with, I'm going to go through the 5 collaboration models here too. The first one that I'll talk about is the team collaboration. And at our school, we have different team members, including EC teachers. This is exceptional children is EC. So EC teachers, instructional assistants who are in those classrooms, those students who are in those classrooms themselves. We have a speech therapist and a physical therapist, and our school counselor those are all people who are involved. We also have our PTA is involved with this program. The teachers in particular are the ones who provide us with the scheduled time to be able to provide these services. And so their participation and collaboration is extremely important. And then, so we move from kind of the school level to that cross-functional collaboration. And so that includes people outside of the EC department, which include our principal and assistant principal, who helped us with grant funding. And then we also have general education students who will help out with different parts of the program. They've helped us with plant sales, getting, our table set up, and even, helping with delivering plants when needed. And this would also include the cross-functional collaboration, also includes the DPS outdoor learning specialist, who Hannah had mentioned earlier. She sends out an incredible newsletter each month that I have used to locate grants and activity resources. And I can also send her information to be able to advertise upcoming plant sales or to share resources with the broader community. And then the community collaboration. So these are collaborators that are helping us to achieve the goals who are outside the DPS school district. And these include people that are, like I mentioned earlier, the Durham County Extension agents. And for example, they provided free microgreen kits to the classrooms. And Hannah, I think you were part of getting that to happen, which was like a miracle during COVID and like the year after COVID, I guess. And getting the kids to like engage in some hands-on growing activities, it was just wonderful. And the Durham Public Schools Foundation that Hannah had mentioned also is a community nonprofit that we have with our local school district, which is wonderful. That helps us to create better learning opportunities for our students. So that just has been a great thing for us. The next one is looking at collaborative networks. So some of the networks that I have been a part of, including the Carolinas Horticultural Therapy Network, those networking events that I attended was really what got the Exceptional Gardeners program off the ground. So it was after attending several of these events in person that I had the inspiration to start this program. And the CHTN members who also work at the North Carolina Botanical Garden, Emily Weaver is the program manager there, and she has provided educational resources related to plant care, plant sales, marketing. I mean, you name it. She has been a supporter of this program from the get-go. And the also Heather Collegian, who's at the New Hanover County Arboretum and Ability Garden, is somebody who's provided us with plants to use for HT programming, like all the time. Every time I see her, she's like, "Greg, I got some more plants for you." So, finding those people who are at these different organizations, there are lots of people who will help support your program. So just keep an eye out for them. Then the last one here is co-creation. As I mentioned earlier about using the student input and modifying programs based on their input, this is like, to me, one of just such an important type of collaboration that can improve clients' motivation to participate. It can help improve client empowerment and therapeutic outcomes. And, honestly, what Hannah was mentioning about the student in the wheelchair who came out to the hub farm to give feedback, he just, like, you cannot get better feedback than somebody like an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old who is in a wheelchair and, and doesn't mind off-roading. I mean, we got like literally all the information we needed from that. So barriers that I had run into with our program included included was that we had people who wanted to be able to participate and meet in our planning meetings, but they weren't able to attend in person. And so some of the strategies that we used for that included offering an online platform for participation. So people could Zoom into the meetings if they wanted to. Another strategy was keeping an agenda and minutes on a shared Google Doc that people could review when it was convenient for them. And in addition to that, prior to the meetings, I would email the entire group of people, even, whether or not they could attend the meeting, but I would let them know when our meetings were going to be. And then I would put a link to the agenda and minutes in that email. And so then they could see what we would be talking about. They could then add information if they wanted, if they had a question or wanted to get clarification on anything, they can just, put it right there. So that allowed people who were not at the meeting to be able to contribute ideas or resources that benefited our program. All right. And this is a slide. You can scan this QR code And this will take you to a document that has resources on it that we used to develop this program. And when we presented this to the AHTA conference in October of last year, and people also like added resources to this. So there's additional resources that we were able to get from people at that workshop. And this is our contact information. So if if you guys, because we'll have a few minutes here to for Q&A, but if you have any questions afterwards, we are absolutely available. You can email us. There's Hannah's information and my information. So you're welcome to email us after the workshop and ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And thank you for bearing with all of our technical difficulties.
Yes.
Greg, while you were, I don't know if you noticed, but while you were presenting your last slide, I did something and I had to pull up the slideshow again. So apologies for that.
No,
But
thank
yeah,
you for
I guess
saving
we'll
the
take-
day again.
Yeah, we did it. I guess we'll take questions now, Sarah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you guys so much. So for folks who are here, Hannah and Greg will take questions in the chat. You can send them to myself or to Bree. We're both listed as co-hosts, and then we will let you guys know what comes about.
I did have one question from the beginning. Cheryl was wondering if we could have a link to more information about the Exceptional Gardeners program. She was very interested in learning more, if there's any kind of online info.
Funny you should mention that. That is sort of our next step, is to be working on that. I have a flyer that I could send you, but we don't actually have an online presence right now.
Okay, awesome. And then it wasn't really a question, but Mary was saying when you were talking about collaborating with other organizations, they were able to work with a few plant societies, bonsai, rose, herb, butterfly, and native plant societies in Tidewater, Virginia area. And it was great for their kids and their organizations.
Mm,
Awesome.
yeah.
Greg, Leslie's interested in how many students do you work with?
So I have probably around 50 students on my caseload. I would say in terms of the Exceptional Gardeners program, we've got about 15 at the high school or at the elementary school who do this on a regular basis. And then at the high school, I've got probably around 30. So in each of the classes, there's approximately 10 students
Excellent.
at the high school. Mhm.
Great. I'm interested, while we're seeing if more questions come in, Hannah and Greg, what would be your ultimate collaboration? If you could think of one kind of group or entity right now, dream big to collaborate with, who would it be?
Well, I've always wanted to do a sort of like fundraiser series for the Hub Farm. We did one actually of these, but I would love to do more where we collaborate with local artists, like local musicians in Durham, who come do a concert at the Hub Farm, and then the ticket proceeds go to support Hub Farm programming. But having like a picnic and a music series at the Hub Farm is would be a dream to continue to collaborate with local food vendors and also musicians. Yeah.
I love that. If you make that happen, I will come down from Philadelphia to attend.
Yeah. I think it would be fun.
I think, so I don't know if anybody else here watches Gardener's World, but I think a dream of mine would be to have Monty Don come and just be a part of one of the Exceptional Gardeners programs. And I think, having, just as Hannah was talking about, that dream that she had is having plants available for people at that event that you just talked about, Hannah. That the kids in the EC department have propagated and put together and made beautiful. So
Little EC student plant sale at the concert. Yes.
Right.
I love that. Well, now we have a whole bunch of questions coming in. Bree, I'll ask a couple and then you can jump to yours. First, Hannah, if you don't mind switching to the screen that has the QR code again.
Yes.
Someone had wanted that.
Mhm.
A question about the Spanish Heritage Festival. Was that considered TH? And if so, like what activities were available during that?
Yeah, I mean, that was like more broadly a community event, but we had the whole farm was open to the community at that point. So, you know, families and students got to explore the garden spaces. There was actually a salsa band playing music in one of the garden spaces. So it was a little less like hands-on education focused and a little bit more just like receiving outdoor therapy because they were outside at the hub farm. It was a beautiful space. They could wander through all of the outdoor spaces. So that was a little more of like an informal therapeutic horticulture focus. Yeah.
Awesome. And Hannah, I know you had spoken a little bit about funding to begin with. If you think about like percentage wise, does it mostly come from local regional sources or like grants versus plant sales?
Yeah. Yeah, so all of our salaries are paid for through Durham Public Schools, and we have a small budget through the CTE department. So some of our programmatic supplies, like kind of the basics, come through our through DPS. But I would say that's probably like, oh, with our salaries included, maybe like 70% of our funding comes through DPS. And then the other 30%, we do a lot of like our summer camp is primarily grant funded. A lot of our high school internship programs are grant funded. Like we pay $15 an hour for our students. So that money comes through grants. Yeah, so there's definitely a significant chunk of grant programming money as well.
Awesome. Bree, I have about 4 more in here. Do you have any that you wanted to ask first?
Just that somebody was having trouble with the QR links working.
Oh, I can also
Hannah,
just
we can always send something out afterward too.
Okay.
If it's not working when we send the video to folks, we can always
Great.
send a different link for resources.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nicole wants to know, how can we help further integrate gardening and agricultural education and hands-on activities throughout Charlotte Public Schools?
Is that a question? Greg, do you want to answer that? Do you want me to answer that?
Well, you go for it.
Okay. Charlotte Public Schools. Yeah, I would say that, well, first of all, we would love to have whoever that person is to the Hub Farm to do a tour. We can show you the ways that we integrate agriculture and horticulture into our programming. And I would say, I mean, it depends on the, you know, the space that you have, but I would say starting at your school is probably the easiest way. I would say, you know, having a small container garden even at your school is a really easy kind of low barrier first step to integrating outdoor learning, or even just something as simple as taking your students outside and delivering the same lesson, but literally just outdoors is technically outdoor learning. I think we think of outdoor learning as something that is really you know, maybe a little more involved or fancy than it really needs to be. But I think just taking your students outside and having outdoor space while they're learning their English lesson or doing their math is quite a low barrier way to get kids outside. But container gardening, I would say, is like another kind of like the next step up. We also have, maybe I'll send this to you, Sarah, at the when you send out an email, follow-up email, but I can also link our DPS outdoor learning website as well. And that has a lot of lesson plans and resources for starting outdoor learning programs at your school as well. So
Amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of folks in attendance would be eager to see that or to have that. Susan wants to know, how much do gen ed teachers participate in or support your gardening programs with students?
Yeah, Greg, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say for ours, they often purchase the plants that we're selling and are very excited to do that. we also do a plant giveaway. So it's called SOAR Week, and it's about disability awareness. So every day there's like a morning announcement that's done, and they have specials that happen every day related to disability awareness. And what our group does is we have the kids pot up, they propagate and grow out and then pot up these huge 10-inch spider plants, and we give those away. So the teachers are, we send out an email and just say, anybody who's interested, you can add your name to this email list, and then we're going to do a random drawing through the week. And then those students from the EC classrooms will do help with the morning announcement and it's a big dramatic thing that happens. And then they get to help deliver those plants to those teachers. So having them be supportive of, the kids sometimes, kind of stumbling through handing over the plant, the directions to the plant, and sort of some care instructions, it's been really good because the kids get that interaction with, a general education teacher, and the teacher also gets that experience with the EC student.
For some of the scout programming that you had mentioned, aside from like the kind of raised bed buildings or those more specialized scout program, do you guys offer any like merit badges? Girl Scouts and Scouting America both have those like additional merit badges you can earn, and so someone wanted to know about that.
Yeah, we've talked about that. We currently the programming that we've done historically with Scouts is for their Gold Award projects. Like, so for their I guess that's their, as far as I understand, I don't know a lot about Scouts, but I think that's like their final kind of like capstone project. So we've worked with both Girl Scouts and Eagle Scouts, and they have done different various Gold Award projects, and one of which was building a chicken coop for us, actually, where we're housing all of our chickens. So they designed the coop and then actually built it it's really beautifully built. And so, but I think it would be cool to offer the merit badges, going forward in the future. Currently, though, just the Gold Award projects.
I have a personal question, and then Bree, if you have other questions there, I've reached the end of my list. So this might be kind of like a hot button question, but I am interested in or maybe concerned about your funding from public schools, and I'm wondering if there is any risk to that funding, if like how frequently those grants are renewed, if there's concerns about changes in the expectations, especially since you're dealing with public schools, with government and different priorities, if there's any risks to that for you guys.
Greg, do you want to answer first?
Yeah, I would say, like, right now, we don't know. It's that is definitely a concern that we have. The funding that we had gotten initially was sort of a one-time grant. And what we're able to do through the plant sales is generate enough income to be able to cover, more dirt, more pots, and more plants. So, we're basically self-sufficient at this point, as long as I'm still there. But, the equipment, even if I wasn't there, the equipment is still going to be at the school. And so the EC teachers, the instructional assistants who have been really integral into this program would be able to carry on if for some reason I wasn't there.
Yeah, and I would think that the funding that is more concerning maybe for your position, Greg, is just for our EC student support services, right? Like, so any of that funding beyond sort of just the Exceptional Gardeners program. But yeah, like Greg said, it's, it's kind of, it's unknown. We at the Hub Farm, it seems like our 3 staff positions are fully funded 12-month positions, so that's good. And the Hub Farm has been really picking up in demand from teachers in the year since COVID, actually, like from 2020 till now. All of a sudden, outdoor learning is like this hot thing that teachers are really investing in, because at least during COVID specifically, they were realizing, oh, this is a really safe option for our students to get outside and to still be learning, but they can be distanced and they're not, indoors, they don't have to be masked. So really, since COVID, the district, I feel like, has kind of really adopted us as a DPS entity. And I think in the first few years of the hub farm's existence, people would be like, what is the hub farm? Like, we didn't even know that the school had a farm. What is this place? And at this point, we have, you know, a lot of stakeholders in terms of our summer camp families who come back every summer, in terms of our garden interns, in terms of our teachers who regularly utilize the hub farm for their semester field trips. So I think, you know, that is something. And so there is like community stake in the hub farm now, which is really helpful in a time of sort of like unprecedented change on a federal level. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Bree, did
Yeah.
you have any questions over there on your side?
I had one more, and it's kind of in line with that thinking. Mostly just, can you give us a quick rundown on the funding agencies for each of your programs? Like very basically, just because somebody had missed exactly where the money for each program comes from, and then maybe just like a basic ratio of how much comes from each place.
Yeah, I think mine is probably the quicker one. You know, so my salary is covered through the Durham Public Schools as an occupational therapist, and then I use the horticultural therapy as a modality that I use. So our funding for the Exceptional Gardeners program started with a one-time donation of around $2,500, which got us started and to be able to propagate plants that we then sold. And then we've been able to raise enough money through the plant sales to be able to fund basically all the programming costs, which are, you know, not my salary, but you know, all the supplies that we needed, dirt, more pots and plants.
Yeah. So I mentioned this earlier, but so my salary is also, I'm also a DPS employee, 12-month employee, along with my two coworkers. So those salaries are all from Durham Public Schools. And then we get a small programming budget from our career and technical education department. And so that covers some of our materials and supplies that we need on the farm. So like livestock feed and soil and you know, curriculum supply, art supplies, whatever we might use on field trips. And I would say that's about maybe 75% of our funding comes through DPS. The other 25-30% comes from grants. We have worked closely with the DPS Foundation. We've also worked closely with the Burt's Bees Foundation, the Whole Kids Foundation. Oh man, there's so many. Syngenta, we've gotten money from them. We've gotten money from private donors. Yeah, the number of places that we receive grants from is it's a very long list. So and I'm not able to think of them all right now off the top of my head, but a significant portion of our funding comes through grants.
That's
sure.
a lot of different places. Y'all have really
Yes.
stretched your roots out to many different places.
Yeah, it's one skill I've definitely gained working here is how to write a grant, which is pretty handy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we have reached the end of our time with you. Thanks so much to Hannah and Greg, you guys, for speaking about collaboration and your unique collaboration and giving us all some great ideas and tips for how we might kind of increase our collaboration or think about it differently than we'd previously been thinking about it. To everyone in attendance, thank you for attending. This is a reminder that you can subscribe to Florida Horticulture for Health Network. You can check us out using the link that I just put in the chat. And I also put in the chat the link for the Carolinas Therapeutic Horticultural Network as well. I really look forward to seeing everyone at the next Florida Horticulture for Health Network webinar. So thanks again to Hannah and Greg and to all of you for attending.
Yeah, thanks y'all so much. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care.
Yes, bye.